In Genoa City, trust never lasts very long. Every conversation hides a secret, every smile comes with an agenda, and every alliance can collapse in seconds. But next week on The Young and the Restless, one quiet meeting in the park may end up changing everything for several families at once. The tension begins with Patty Williams and Matt Clark. On the surface, Patty appears calm, caring, and deeply concerned about Matt's safety. She speaks softly, acts supportive, and tries to convince him that nobody in Genoa City can truly be trusted, especially Phyllis Summers. But underneath Patty's sweet behavior, something much darker is happening. She carefully pushes Matt toward isolation. Every sentence feels designed to weaken his confidence in Phyllis while increasing his dependence on her. Patty insists that Phyllis only cares about protecting herself and that Matt could become the next victim if he stays connected to her chaos. Matt listens carefully, but he is not completely convinced. In fact, he turns the situation around on Patty in a way she clearly did not expect. Instead of blindly trusting her, Matt questions why he should believe Patty at all. He points out that she has manipulated people before and reminds her that Genoa City is full of dangerous games. His skepticism immediately changes the energy of the conversation. For a moment, Patty loses control. Still trying to recover, she changes tactics and becomes more personal, more flirtatious, and more emotionally persuasive. She offers Matt a way out of town and promises she can help him disappear safely before Victor Newman finds him. But Matt shocks her again. He refuses the offer completely. Instead of relying on Patty, he says he will handle things himself and leave Genoa City on his own terms. That rejection hits Patty harder than expected. The calm expression on her face disappears almost instantly. And the second Matt walks away, Patty reveals who she really is. She secretly contacts Victor Newman and tells him exactly where Matt can be found. That single phone call could destroy everything. The most dangerous part is not even the betrayal itself. It is how quickly Patty abandons her entire concerned friend act once she realizes she cannot control Matt anymore. The kindness was never real. The support was never genuine. It was all part of a calculated strategy. Meanwhile, trouble is growing inside the Abbott mansion as Jack Abbott faces increasing guilt over the yacht scandal involving Victor. Jack finally admits to Kyle Abbott that he exaggerated parts of the story while speaking to Nikki Newman. He made Victor appear worse than the available evidence actually proved. Jack knows what he did crossed a line. At the same time, he also believes Nikki needed to see the truth about the man she married. In Jack's mind, if exposing Victor's darker behavior finally helps Nikki break free emotionally, then maybe the damage was worth it. Kyle is clearly uncomfortable with that justification. And before Jack can even process his own guilt, another surprise arrives at the mansion: flowers from Patty. The message attached is simple but deeply unsettling. Patty says she hopes Jack finds a reason to contact her soon. The second Jack reads the note, his expression changes completely. Because he understands exactly what Patty is doing. She is reminding him that she still knows secrets. She is reminding him that she was involved in this dangerous situation. And most importantly, she is reminding him that she could become a serious threat if ignored. Over at Society, Nikki's anger toward Victor continues growing stronger. She is emotionally exhausted from the yacht scandal and no longer knows what to believe anymore. Even though part of her suspect's Patty may have manipulated certain details, Nikki cannot ignore how deeply hurt she feels. When Jack approaches her and apologizes for causing additional pain, Nikki surprisingly does not push him away. Instead, she thanks him. That reaction says more about Nikki's emotional state than words ever could. For the first time in a long time, her marriage to Victor truly appears unstable. And as Genoa City keeps spiraling into more deception, betrayal, and emotional warfare, one thing is becoming painfully clear. Nobody is walking away from this situation unchanged. The emotional damage spreading through Genoa City is no longer hidden behind polite conversations and fake smiles. Next week on The Young and the Restless, relationships begin cracking in ways that may never fully heal, especially for Nikki Newman. After everything connected to the yacht scandal, Nikki is emotionally drained, furious, and quietly terrified about what her future with Victor Newman may look like. At society, Nikki struggles to control her frustration as more questions continue surfacing about Victor's behavior. Every new detail feels like another betrayal added to an already unbearable situation. Even though some part of her suspect's outside manipulation may be involved, the damage has already been done emotionally. And right now, Nikki feels completely exhausted from defending Victor. When Jack Abbott approaches her, the conversation immediately becomes emotional. Jack admits he never intended to hurt her personally. He explains that his decisions came from concern, not cruelty, even if his actions made things worse. What surprises Jack most is Nikki's response. Instead of attacking him or demanding distance, Nikki actually appreciates his honesty. She thanks him for being truthful with her at a time when honesty feels almost impossible to find in Genoa City. That moment says everything. Because Nikki's emotional connection to Victor is no longer as solid as it once was. For years, she defended him through scandal after scandal. She accepted his manipulation, his obsession with control, and his constant need to dominate every situation. But this time feels different. This time, Nikki sounds tired. Jack also formally offers to sponsor Nikki as she continues trying to maintain emotional stability through all the chaos surrounding her life. The offer is deeply personal and meaningful because it reminds Nikki that someone still genuinely wants to protect her instead of controlling her. Meanwhile, another emotional conversation unfolds at the GCAC bar. Michael Baldwin is sitting alone, drinking heavily while trying to process the growing destruction surrounding the Newman family. Michael has spent years defending Victor, cleaning up his mistakes, and remaining loyal even when others walked away. But even Michael looks emotionally exhausted now. When Nikki joins him, the atmosphere becomes painfully honest. Michael carefully tries defending Victor one more time. He reminds Nikki that Victor has been under enormous pressure recently and suggests that some compassion may still be necessary before completely giving up on their marriage. But Nikki immediately shuts that idea down. For the first time, she openly admits something she has probably feared privately for weeks. She believes her marriage may already be beyond repair. And the way she says it changes everything. There is no anger behind the statement anymore. No dramatic screaming. No emotional outburst. Instead, there is sadness, disappointment, and emotional defeat. Nikki sounds like someone who has finally reached the point where hope is starting to disappear. That emotional shift may become one of the biggest turning points of the entire storyline. Elsewhere in Genoa City, Phyllis Summers is dealing with problems of her own, and the pressure surrounding her situation keeps getting worse by the hour. Phyllis meets with Lauren Fenmore and admits she completely lost control of the situation involving Matt Clark. In her mind, Patty destroyed the only leverage she had left to protect herself legally. Phyllis blames Patty for everything. According to Phyllis, Patty intentionally interfered because she wanted power, attention, and emotional control over Matt. Now the entire situation has collapsed, and Phyllis feels cornered from every direction. Both Lauren and Michael try pushing Phyllis toward the same difficult decision. They believe surrendering Newman Enterprises may be her only realistic option left. But Phyllis refuses immediately. She insists that giving up Newman Enterprises would mean losing the final piece of power she still possesses. Even though the situation is becoming more desperate, Phyllis cannot accept the idea of walking away empty-handed. And honestly, that refusal says a lot about her emotional state right now. Phyllis is no longer simply fighting for survival. She is fighting to maintain control over anything in a world that keeps slipping further out of her grasp. At the same time, the growing conflict between Victor, Nikki, Jack, and Phyllis is creating dangerous pressure across multiple families in Genoa City. Secrets are colliding. Old rivalries are reopening. And emotional wounds that never fully healed are starting to bleed again. But perhaps the most dangerous part is this. Almost nobody involved is thinking clearly anymore. Victor wants control. Jack wants redemption. Phyllis wants survival. Patty wants obsession. And Nikki simply wants peace. Unfortunately, in Genoa City, peace rarely lasts for very long. And with every emotional conversation becoming more explosive than the last, it feels increasingly likely that the next major betrayal is already right around the corner. In Genoa City, pressure doesn't just build, it crushes people slowly, until they start making decisions they normally never would. In this next chapter of The Young and the Restless, the emotional weight on everyone's shoulders becomes almost impossible to ignore. At the center of another collapsing situation is Phyllis Summers, who is now operating in full survival mode. After losing control of key leverage in her ongoing battle, Phyllis feels like the ground is disappearing beneath her feet. Everything she built, protected, and manipulated to maintain power is starting to fall apart. Phyllis meets again with Lauren Fenmore, hoping for another option, another strategy, another escape route. But instead of solutions, she keeps hearing the same hard truth. There may be no easy way out this time. Lauren tries to make Phyllis understand that the situation has escalated beyond emotional reactions. This is no longer about pride or revenge. It's about consequences. And those consequences could become permanent if Phyllis refuses to compromise. Even Michael Baldwin joins the conversation, adding his legal perspective. He suggests that surrendering Newman Enterprises might be the only realistic path left to reduce damage and protect what little stability remains. But Phyllis reacts immediately and strongly. She refuses. Not hesitantly. Not thoughtfully. Completely and firmly. For Phyllis, Newman Enterprises is not just a business asset. It represents identity, control, and power. Losing it would feel like losing a part of herself she has fought too hard to build. And even if the situation is spiraling, she is not ready to let go. That emotional resistance creates even more tension between her and the people trying to help her. Because from their perspective, Phyllis is not just fighting for power anymore, she is fighting against reality itself. Meanwhile, far away from corporate chaos and emotional breakdowns, a completely different story is unfolding in New York. Claire Grace and Holden Novak have unexpectedly crossed a line neither of them planned for. They have slept together. And what makes this moment even more surprising is how natural it feels between them. Neither Claire nor Holden expected anything romantic to happen on this trip. It wasn't planned, and it certainly wasn't part of any long-term expectation. But now that it has happened, neither of them seems regretful, just surprised. There is a quiet honesty between them that feels refreshing compared to the chaos in Genoa City. For once, there is no manipulation. No hidden agenda. No power struggle. Just two people reacting to a connection they didn't see coming. Holden eventually leaves to visit Malcolm Winters at the hospital, leaving Claire alone with her thoughts. And in that moment, Claire realizes something important: she is actually emotionally affected by what just happened. She isn't trying to play it cool. She isn't pretending it meant nothing. She is genuinely processing feelings she did not expect to have. And that alone marks a major shift for her character. Because Claire has often been surrounded by control, pressure, and complicated Newman family dynamics. But this time, she is outside that world, even if just briefly, and experiencing something more personal and vulnerable. Back in Genoa City, however, nothing is calm. Every storyline is still tightening. Every character is still making decisions that could explode later. And even though Claire is currently far away from the chaos, it's only a matter of time before the ripple effects reach her too. Because in this world, no connection stays separate forever. And as Phyllis continues refusing to back down, and Nikki continues questioning her marriage, the stage is being set for even bigger confrontations ahead. In Genoa City, peace is always temporary. And consequences always come back around. In Genoa City, secrets don't stay buried, they evolve, twist, and eventually come back in the most unexpected ways. In this new phase of The Young and the Restless, the pressure between truth and deception starts pushing everyone closer to the edge. At the center of the storm is Jack Abbott, who is now forced to confront the consequences of a decision he thought he could control. Jack finally admits something difficult to Kyle Abbott, that he exaggerated parts of the yacht scandal story when speaking to Nikki Newman. This confession changes the dynamic immediately. Jack explains that his intention was never purely manipulation, but influence. He wanted Nikki to see Victor differently, to finally recognize patterns she had been ignoring for years in her marriage with Victor Newman. But even as Jack defends his motives, Kyle can clearly see the moral gray area getting darker. Jack knows he pushed the story further than the evidence justified. He shaped perception instead of presenting truth, and now he is carrying the weight of that choice. The emotional tension doesn't end there. Suddenly, a delivery arrives at the Abbott mansion. Flowers. No explanation. No sender note beyond a carefully written message. They are from Patty Williams. And the message is unsettling. Patty writes that she hopes Jack will find a reason to contact her soon. That single line immediately shifts the entire atmosphere in the room. Because Jack understands exactly what this means. Patty is not reaching out casually. She is reminding him that she is still connected to everything happening behind the scenes. She is signaling that she has information, leverage, and possibly unfinished intentions tied to the chaos unfolding in Genoa City. Jack's expression changes as he reads it. What seemed like a distant problem suddenly feels much closer. Meanwhile, across town and society, emotional pressure continues to build around Nikki Newman. Nikki is still struggling with the aftermath of the yacht scandal, and her frustration with Victor has not cooled down. In fact, it is becoming sharper, more personal, and more emotionally dangerous. When Jack arrives to speak with her, he tries to explain himself clearly. He insists he was not trying to destroy her marriage or manipulate her emotions for cruelty. Instead, he says he was reacting to years of frustration and concern. And surprisingly, Nikki listens. Even more surprising, she thanks him. That moment is important, because it shows Nikki is no longer fully defending Victor the way she used to. Something inside her is shifting. The loyalty is cracking, replaced by doubt and emotional exhaustion. Later, Nikki encounters Michael Baldwin at the GCAC bar. Michael is drinking alone, clearly overwhelmed by everything happening around the Newman family. He tries, carefully, to defend Victor's position once again. He suggests that Victor has been under extreme pressure and deserves some understanding before being fully judged. But Nikki shuts that down instantly. This time, she does not argue emotionally. She states something much more serious. She believes her marriage may already be beyond repair. And she means it. That statement carries weight because it doesn't sound like anger, it sounds like acceptance. Like she has reached a point where hope is no longer stronger than reality. Across all these intersecting storylines, one thing is becoming very clear. Jack is entangled in a moral conflict he cannot easily escape. Nikki is emotionally detaching from Victor. And Patty is quietly re-entering the center of danger without anyone fully realizing how far her influence might reach. In Genoa City, nothing stays simple for long. Every decision creates consequences. And every secret eventually demands payment. In the world of the young and the restless, storylines don't just end, they echo across decades. And few characters embody that more than Sharon Newman. Sharon Newman is not just a character. She is an entire era of Genoa City history. Over the years, she has lived through emotional destruction, shocking betrayals, and life-changing trauma that would break most people permanently. Yet somehow, she always returns, still standing, still part of the story, still connected to the emotional core of the show. Her journey has included marriage chaos, heartbreak, addiction struggles, custody battles, psychological breakdowns, and moments of redemption that feel almost impossible to believe in hindsight. And yet, fans are still watching. Still invested. Still arguing about her. Because Sharon is one of those rare characters who divides audiences completely. Some viewers see her as one of the most compelling emotional characters ever written in daytime drama. Others see her as a constant cycle of repeated mistakes and emotional instability. But both sides agree on one thing. She is never boring. And that is exactly why she has lasted. A major part of Sharon's impact comes from the performance of Sharon Case, who has carried the role for decades with consistency and emotional depth. Her ability to portray psychological breakdowns, emotional vulnerability, and quiet strength has helped define the character's long-term legacy. Even when storylines become extreme, Sharon's emotional delivery keeps the character grounded in something human. That is why she continues to matter in 2026 storylines. Because Genoa City is always changing, but Sharon remains a central emotional reference point. She connects past storylines to current chaos involving families like the Newmans and Abbotts, even when she is not directly at the center of every conflict. And speaking of the Newmans, the emotional instability surrounding Nikki Newman and Victor Newman continues to ripple through the entire town. Their marriage, once seen as untouchable power, is now being questioned more openly than ever. Nikki's emotional exhaustion, combined with Victor's controlling nature, is creating cracks that other characters are beginning to notice and potentially exploit. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers remains locked in her own battle for control, refusing to give up Newman Enterprises even as pressure mounts from every direction. Her resistance is no longer just strategic, it is emotional survival. And somewhere in the background, Jack Abbott continues carrying the weight of his choices, caught between truth, manipulation, and consequences he can no longer fully control. Even the younger generation, including Claire Grace, is now stepping into emotional territory they didn't expect, proving that Genoa City's chaos is not limited to one generation. Because this is how it always works in this world. One secret leads to another. One betrayal triggers a chain reaction. And one emotional decision can reshape multiple families at once. As Sharon Newman continues her long-running legacy, and the rest of Genoa City spirals deeper into uncertainty, one thing becomes very clear. Nothing is truly finished here. Every ending is just the beginning of another storm.